So if you don't want to be recorded, just hide your camera. But most of the time I'll just be recording what's in the presentation anyway. And these recordings, I'll just make them available after. I'll leave them for about a week or so, a couple of weeks, just depending on how much capacity I've got left in the cloud. All right. So thanks very much for joining us today. I've, based on feedback, polls and all that sort of stuff, I've just sort of changed the approach of these meetup structures a little bit. Out of the, I think we've got 220 people now join the meetup group. So I was looking at how can I structure the meetups in a way that's sort of useful to everybody. So that's why I've come up with the sort of 2 weekly rotating pattern. Tuesdays will be daily users, which is going through Jira and Confluence fundamentals and people who are new to Jira and Confluence or increasing their familiarity or wanting to. Power users already using Jira and Confluence wanted to deep dive a bit more into filters, dashboard, Confluence macros, roadmaps, etc. Project administrators responsible for team level configuration in their organization. They might want to learn how to configure boards, project settings, etc. Color their cards or show different data on the cards based on a JQL query or whatever the case may be. And then the fourth stream really is for system administrators, so responsible for system-wide configuration of workflows, permission schemes, screens and fields, and much more. I'm just going to run a quick poll. I was sort of hoping that I would have more people here to get a bit more data, but I'll just run with what we've got here. Okay, so what I really wanted to ask the crowd was, and I'm going to launch this now. I wanted to find out the frequency of meetups, so just to sanity check my thinking, I suppose, about Tuesdays, Thursdays, that sort of thing. And the frequency, what time of day works best locally for where you are, because then I can sort of adjust the time to suit the majority. Which meetup sessions you'd like to attend, whether it's you want to go to all of them or just wanted to focus on particular ones. How long would you like these meetup series to run? So, you know, a month and we're sort of done, or I'm just going to keep going until I've learned what I need to learn and then I'll drop off, or just want to keep it going forever, whatever the case may be. And then the duration that works better. So, you know, if an hour is too much, is half an hour okay, or an hour is good, or would longer be better because an hour goes too quick? And whether these polls that I'm running are helpful too. They certainly help me with getting a sense of what people want and that sort of thing. But people might think, oh, this is a pain, I just want to jump straight into the content. So I'll just give 60 seconds or so there for you to answer those polls. If you're on Chrome rather than using the Zoom app, then I think the polls might not work for you. Just give it another minute or so there. Okay. Oh, awesome. And we might have somebody dialed in using Chrome or a browser rather than the client. So we'll end the polling there. And we'll just share the results. And so you can probably see this anyway on your screen. Okay, so Tuesdays and Thursdays are good. That's great. Once a week's enough, and that might be based on the particular session that you want to dive into. I suppose what I was really looking for here also was a sense of whether people wanted to attend every session, but twice a week is just too much for them, but I think this will be okay. Okay, middle of the day is good. Later evening after dinner. Jaya, was that you? Like, does this time suit you, your time? Sorry,
yeah,
you probably got
Paul, you guessed it right. Yeah,
yeah.
This is perfect for me. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, yep. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, and which meetup sessions would you like to attend? Daily users, power users, project administrators. That's good. Okay, so this helps me to understand sort of the appetite for the different streams. So that's good. Keep attending it, see where it takes me. An hour's good, yep. And are these polls helpful? Yep, cool. All right. No worries. Awesome. Okay, thank you for doing that. Okay, so today I'm going to go through the Jira product options. So some people are already very familiar with the different products that are available for Jira. Hosting options, so server, cloud, etc. The different cost structures and plugins. I just want to spend maybe 15 minutes on this. I don't want to go in too deep. Jira constructs, so projects, boards, components, labels, releases and versions, and epics is the main thing that I want to go through there. Okay. And I want to make this interactive, right? I want to have people asking questions along the way so that you're getting good value out of it. Perhaps if you want to either use your reaction button, I can't see where it is there, but I think you'll have a reaction button there, or in the participant window, if you open that up. So participants is just down along the bottom of your screen. If you open that up, then you can also give a yes, no, go slow or go fast or whatever. And there's an option there to raise your hand. Or you can just post in the chat. So John has put an item in the chat there, a link to another group. So if there's resources that you're aware of that could be helpful, then you can post them in the chat as well. Or if there's something that you want to ask along the way, just post in the chat, and then we'll get to it as we go. Cool. So just a quick history on it Atlassian. So I've been using Jira for about 10 years or so, and when it first started out, there was no agile side to it. There was a plugin built called Greenhopper, and Atlassian bought that plugin and integrated it into Jira. So that's what is probably most heavily used now around Kanban and Scrum boards and all that agile tracking and reporting and stuff. So that started out as a Greenhopper plugin. And so initially, it was just Jira Software and Confluence were the two main products, and I think it all stemmed out of Jira. They started then sort of splitting out Jira to the other sort of products. So Jira Core is around, it's still the same Jira that we're going to be looking at, but it's just got a different kind of focus or a slightly cut down view. And so that's around a business focus. And then there's Service Desk as well, which is for IT service management, raising tickets and that sort of thing. So the licensing structure and user base for those, or the approach is slightly different. So people who are not registered users, but could be a customer of a business, can raise service requests, etc. The good thing there is that the data that goes into Jira is accessible from elsewhere in Jira as well. Atlassian then started buying other products, so they bought out Trello. Jira Align used to be, I can't remember what the name of the product was, but there was some other portfolio level plugin, and so they bought that. And then they bought Opsgenie, Status Page, etc. I'm not sure about Bitbucket and Bamboo, whether they built them from scratch or they bought them, but the key point, I suppose, is that Atlassian has been growing and morphing and changing the whole way, which is really good. Any questions so far about Atlassian's history? No? Okay. All right. So the Atlassian website, atlassian.com. I'm just going to jump through now. I'll just change the screen that I'm sharing. And okay. So I've opened up tabs here that we can just run through quickly. So Atlassian.com, that's the website. Typically Australian with the G'day we're Atlassian type call out there. And there's menus across the top. So we're going to go through the products one predominantly. So products, as I was saying before, there's Jira Software, Jira Core, Status Page, Opsgenie, Jira Service Desk, Jira Align, and this under Atlassian.com software has got some summary there if you want to read through and see what the other offerings are. Confluence for collaboration, Trello, Bitbucket, SourceTree, etc. So there's all sorts of stuff that's in there. we're focusing predominantly on Jira and Confluence, and in particular Jira software is the main flavor of Jira that I'll be looking at in these meetups. So on this page, software Jira, so if you go products and then Jira software, that's how you get to here. This has just got an overview of Jira itself, a bit about boards. Most of you, I think, will be familiar with these, but it talks about what you can do with releasing, reporting, workflows, integrating with other tools, so integrating with Confluence and development workflows. Could be Bitbucket, could be other Jenkins and different things you can integrate with as well. And then you can build roadmaps. And roadmaps has been something that's been developed pretty heavily over the last few years. Ella, I think you've probably got a particular interest in this one and where that's headed. Then there's the features page, so you can go in a bit deeper about boards, Kanban boards, and you can read all of this stuff at your leisure, right? And I'm going to just paste this. I mean, it's pretty easy, but okay. Sandeep, yeah, just messaged. Join 11 minutes late, no problem. Understand that Paul covered Jira and Atlassian's history, all ears and eyes now. Yep, no problem. Okay, so. And okay, just got some more joining. And with the late joining, no problem, right? The first meetup that I had waiting rooms enabled, so I was a little bit unsure about how to do the admitting to meeting into the room and that sort of stuff. Waiting rooms enabled, sorry. But no, that's fine. I understand this time of day, people have got meetings that run over. You've got to grab a bite to eat and all that sort of stuff. So no stress. Okay, so yeah, looking through features. Kanban boards, roadmaps, and you can see with each of these sections, if you want to read more about it, it's you can self-navigate there and find out more. Roadmaps I'm going to talk about in the Power Users series, so that should help cover those. A bit about Agile reporting, integrating to connect your code for CI/CD, and then there's more there as well. Okay. The other page that might be really handy for you if you're new to Jira is this product guide page. So once you go into Jira and you choose product guide, so there's guides and tutorials here. Atlassian also have a YouTube channel, so there's lots of videos that you can watch as well. And there's FAQs, etc., etc. Okay. All right. Now, there's a couple of different flavors of Jira. Initially, there was no cloud hosted option. It was all hosting on people's servers. So you download an installation file, install it on your laptop or your server or whatever, and you just pay a fixed price and support, but the licensing is fixed price, and you're completely responsible for managing that instance yourself. And then cloud came along. Cloud was a little bit feature deficient initially, but it quickly matched the server capability. And cloud is going ahead in leaps and bounds now because they can deploy updates as often as they want to. So I think my understanding is that Atlassian's emphasis is on developing cloud because that's where their biggest market's going to be in the future. Both cloud and server have feature parity really. They're both really good. The look and feel of, so I'm just going to go quickly into Jira. The look and feel of Jira, cloud initially had navigation down the left that was kind of really clunky, and server had the navigation across the right, and they've now got them the same. So the server and cloud have both got the menu navigation across the top. Okay, so question from Sandeep. Paul, would you recommend to go for Jira Cloud Standard subscription or Jira Cloud Premium subscription? Really good question. One of the other tabs, I've got pricing there, so I'll run through that in a sec, Sandeep. Really good question. So enterprise, oh yeah, on server, there's now a standard server and there's also data center. It was a new one that came up, which is optimized for hosting in AWS and Azure. And it's for bigger organizations, so Coles and others that have a lot of users, and they may have a concern over where the data is stored. So for the Atlassian hosted, I'm pretty sure it's still hosted on Australian soil, but banks and others may have a concern about where their data's located, if it's onshore, offshore, and what control they have about it. So if they use data center, they can still host that in the cloud on AWS or Azure or Google, but they have more control over where that data is stored. Okay. So software cloud is the version that I'll be demonstrating because that's what, where my instance is. Okay. Pricing. Okay, yeah, so good question, Sandeep. So on this pricing page, post that link in there. There's two different tabs here. There's a cloud pricing and a self-managed pricing tab. Self-managed is for Jira Server and Jira Data Center. Those two options, and they're both pretty similar. You can put in which type of plan you want to go for, free, premium, standard, etc. How many users, so you can scale this up and it'll adjust the price, monthly pricing, and you can opt for either monthly or annual. And this will give you a good look at what the cost is going to be, what you're going to be looking at. So Atlassian have recently changed their pricing model. There was never a free version before. I was always on the standard one, which was like 10 users for $10 a month. And that included the option to have Portfolio for Jira plugin at another $10 a month. They've changed it now so that Portfolio for Jira is being replaced by Advanced Roadmaps, and it's only available in premium. So they're pretty clever here. So if I wanted to have two people, or for our meetups, right? If I wanted to have 10 people on premium, currently it's costing me $10 a month because I've got a 6-month trial of Advanced Roadmaps. But in the future, if I wanted to have 10 users running premium, it's going to cost me $140 a month. So I'm probably not going to do that. What I will do, I think, is either go for free or standard for a meetup instance, and then have my own premium. So if we wanted to see stuff about roadmaps, then I'll just demonstrate my own instance, which is what we're looking at now. Okay, so yeah, good call, Sandeep. So Sandeep's comment was really missing Portfolio for Jira, it's too costly now. Yeah, if you've got one user, so if it's your own instance, then it's $14 a month instead of 10, so it's not too bad. And previously, if you were paying $10 a month for Jira and $10 a month for Portfolio, you're paying $20 a month. So one user, it's going to save you a little bit of money. 2 users, yeah, it's 28, so it's going to cost you a bit more. But certainly, if you're going to go for 10, then it's going to cost a lot more than that. I'm a bit disappointed that they've done that and taken away the option for the Portfolio plugin. But yeah, that's business, I suppose. And I suppose that's kind of where they have their business advantage from running cloud or promoting cloud. They can change the licensing model and that sort of stuff. Having said that, they've got the free version now. So maybe their thinking was less people need roadmaps and more people need access. So if you go for free or standard, it's probably going to save you some money. Some of the basic differences between free, standard, and premium. Standard's pretty much got everything that you're going to need. It's got less storage space, still 2 gig, which is pretty good. And it's doesn't have support from Atlassian themselves. It's just community support, which I assume is probably forums and that sort of stuff. There's no 99% uptime SLA, no audit logs, etc. They've brought in some new features. So there's a sandbox. You can specify what IP addresses can access, and these are some of the new features that are coming to premium that weren't available previously. So that's pretty good. Advanced roadmaps is there as well. And automation. So automation's a new thing that they've brought in. Even on the free version, you can still do automation at the project level, and under enterprise, you can do automation at a global level. All right. So I think I've pasted that in. Yep. Okay. All right. So I'll leave that there just in the interest of time. And we can discuss that further if you want to. The other thing that I wanted to call out was the plugins, or they call it marketplace, which is immense. And so some of the plugins, like I was saying before, Atlassian have actually bought them. People can certainly develop their own plugins. You can sell them on the marketplace, which is really good. And there are stacks of them. There are plugins for Jira. There's plugins for Confluence, Bitbucket, Bamboo Crowd, all their products. There are plugins for cloud instances. There's plugins for server, data center. A lot of them are compatible with the different versions. Some are specifically only available for server, for example, and not available for cloud. They would probably be the older plugins that would be limited that way. Most of them, so Jira Suite Utilities, for example, it's one that you can create mandatory fields and do some data manipulation during workflows. That one was available only for server for a while, I think, and then they updated it, so it's now available across all. Question from Anthony. Does the new advanced roadmaps include what used to be Jira Align, which used to be Agile Craft? It would explain the difference in price and availability. Agile Craft always used to be a premium product. Really good question, Anthony. No, advanced roadmaps is just what Portfolio was. And I think because they're seeing Jira Align as an enterprise-wide solution, they're going to charge you more money for that. I haven't looked at Jira Align in depth, but that's my understanding at this point. If anybody discovers something different, please let me know, but that's my understanding at the moment. The other call out is roadmaps started out with their next-gen Jira projects, and they're becoming available for the classic projects. And so the look and feel of advanced roadmaps is similar to what they've created for roadmaps in the next-gen projects. But next-gen projects at this point in time are not compatible with advanced roadmaps. So if you've got next-gen projects and you want to link them into an advanced roadmap, aka Jira Portfolio plan, you can't do it. It's probably going to be at some time in the future, but I was watching a webinar a couple of days ago and Atlassian seemed to be a bit non-committal about that. I think that's a lower priority for them than all the classic projects that are out there. Also, just quickly on, we're going to talk about projects in a minute. Actually, I might jump into that now. Let's see. All right. Are there any questions about the products and stuff? So I've got Anthony's product question and Sandeep's as well. Any others at this point, or we'll keep going? We're at almost at halfway. Okay, cool. All right. So I just want to confirm that I'm sharing the right screen. Yep, okay, cool. All right, so projects. A lot of you will be fairly familiar already with projects, but just as a high level. So there are different constructs around managing data. Okay, so just got another comment there for Anthony. By the way, to all, I highly recommend any plugin that does user story mapping well. Yep, absolutely. I haven't tried the Jira one yet though. There was one that I tried and it was using Epics. I can't remember what it's called, but it was pretty cool. But yeah, good point, Anthony. That's really helpful. Sandeep, would you be covering any additional plugins like X-ray test management, tempo, timesheets, big picture, project management, and PPM? Yeah, I think that'd be really good, either in the power user or one of the other streams to go through plugins like that. And I'd really love for all of the members to nominate what sort of plugins they'd like to have covered. There'll be some that I know a bit about. There'll be others like Big Picture that I'm not familiar with. And I'd really love for anybody in the community to who's familiar with the plugin, if you want to present and tell the team or tell the group about it, that'd be awesome. So yes, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So with projects, there's a few different ways of visualizing data, I suppose, or the constructs of data that are in use in Jira. So projects is one. Projects are not a project in the traditional sense. They don't have a start date and a finish date and a scope and all that sort of thing. A project in Jira is more like a there'd be other software packages out there which have projects that could be Dreamweaver or something like that. Yep, Anthony, exactly. It's a container, right? And so there would normally be an alignment between a project and a team or a product. So you can see here I've got a few, I've created some with mock data from, what was it? Elysium or something was the company. There's some JSON data that I just created some projects with. So ancient circle, ancient furniture, doesn't really mean a lot to me. But there are some for Energy Australia. I created some mock ones there. So there's like LG batteries, LG inverters, LG panels, LG solutions. And I mock these up as different teams or different products. And you're spot on, Anthony. These are containers for work. So yeah, they don't, as opposed to a Microsoft project construct, they don't have a start and a finish date and fixed scope or anything like that. A project is a container for work for a team, and it's the intent is for a long-lived team. Okay. Some of the attributes of projects, you can have a name, a key. So all of the issues in Jira. And just on issues, an issue does not mean a problem. An issue is just a record or a thing. And there are a range of different issue types, as most of you would know. So stories, tasks, you can create your own. So I'll show, I go to integrity works. I'll go growth and development. Okay, if you want to look at issue types, I've configured a few different ones for myself here. So Scrum Master, Knowledge Nugget, Reflection, Toolkit Development, etc., etc. Right. So you can create issue types as it helps you. Okay, and Anthony, yeah, good call out. So issue, Jira used to be a bug tracker and still showing threads. Yeah, absolutely. So Atlassian always say, no, an issue is not a problem. But yeah, that's exactly, it's harking back to where it sort of all started from. So yeah, you can define issue types, or your project system administrator can define issue types for whatever makes sense and works for you in your organization. You can also have different screen schemes. So different screens could appear for my Scrum Master issue types as opposed to my reading tasks, for example. You can have different workflows as well. So my Scrum Master workflow might just be to do in progress and done. My reading one might have a different workflow of book started, finished book, reviewing and documenting my learnings or whatever, and finished, or something like that. So you can define a workflow as suits you for your work issue type as well. The other attributes there for projects, all of mine are classic software. I haven't created any on NextGen yet. I had a play with it a while ago, about 12 months ago. NextGen projects were feature deficient initially. So they didn't have versions, for example, or releases. They didn't have components, and yeah, they were a bit limited. They're getting better now, but given that you can't yet use next-gen projects in the advanced roadmaps, I'm still not overly keen on using them. You can set a lead for the project, and then you can have the issues default assigned to the lead if you wanted to. I don't know who these people are. They were just in the mock data from the company. Expium, that was the name of the company. You can set up categories for your projects. So these ones I've just set as a category of mock data. This one I've set no category. That's my growth and development one. I've got a home category, consulting, internal, external, employment ones, etc. Okay. So that's projects. Any other questions on projects before we keep going with boards? And you feel free to talk to if you wanted to. Take yourself off mute if you got any questions along the way too. Okay, in old Jira for Anthony, thank you. In old Jira, defining custom workflows was always a handle with care. Poorly designed workflows always had unintended consequences that were hard to get rid of. Yeah, really good call, Anthony. So the intention of next-gen projects is to enable people to do their own configuration. It's limited, but they can do their own configuration of their own project without it breaking other things. That's a really good call out, Anthony. So Jira is very, very powerful. You can either start with something that's really basic, just with a really basic workflow, or it can become can become a nightmare in the wrong hands. So as an example, I discovered a week ago with Vikram, who's on here, that you used to be able to insert JavaScript into description fields for if you created a custom field, if you wanted to do things like automatically calculate or set a value, and they've withdrawn that. So in cloud, you can no longer paste in JavaScript. So, and I think that's probably because it was a bit dangerous and people were probably destroying the user experience through bad JavaScript and that sort of thing. So with great power comes great responsibility. Okay, so with boards, Sandeep, did that answer your question or observation?
Paul, I had a different question.
Yeah.
My question was, in the upcoming sessions, would you be covering, which type of project would you be covering? Would it be the classic Kanban project or the Scrum project, or would you be diving into the next gen projects? Just, I was keen to know.
Yeah, for sure. So my intention was to focus just on the classic projects, both Kanban and Scrum. If there's an appetite for next gen projects, then I can dive in there. Or if there are people who have used next gen projects and would like to showcase some of the stuff about next gen projects, that'd be awesome too. So as I said in the kickoffs, I don't want to make this. This is not about me. This is about you guys, right? So these meetups need to be of value to you. So if there's a consensus that hey, we'd like to see some a run through an overview of next gen projects, then absolutely, that would be awesome. And I'll probably ask for a volunteer who's played with them to demo those. That'd be really cool. Thanks, Sandeep. That's a really good suggestion and good question. Okay, so boards. A board is a representation of the data in your project. Okay, so we talked before about projects. Projects are a collection of work and all that sort of stuff. And so boards are a representation to it. Almost like a glorified filter, I suppose. And so with boards, and we're looking here at my growth and development classic software project. At the moment, I've got a Kanban board here. And you can search for boards. So boards live within a project. At the moment, they didn't used to. They sort of were a bit detached from projects and were a bit confusing that way. But they're associated with the project now. So boards in growth and development, I've got one there, just a Kanban board. If I go to some of the others, so if I go to Meetups and Scrum, you can see now choosing that board has moved me to the Meetups project instead of the Grow project that I was in at the moment previously. And so in here, I'm on a Scrum board. So you can see there's backlog and there's active sprints. And I've also got a Kanban board here as well. Okay, Anthony, boards used to be able to go across multiple projects. Yeah, true. And you can pull data from multiple projects still. You can roll up blocked issues across multiple projects into a single board. Yeah, you can do that still, Anthony. So a project is a board is associated with a project, but you can still pull data in from multiple. So at Energy Australia, for example, I had an overarching program board, and it pulled data from each of the product boards, and the product boards had their own separate boards as well. So yeah, really good call out. And that's something that we could demo too if you wanted to. Okay, so yep, so I've got Scrum and Kanban boards here. Now, for Scrum boards, we've got a backlog view, and here you can see sprints. So you can either have, you can start off with no sprints, or you can have one to many sprints. So we can create future sprints if we wanted to, and have no work assigned to it. Scrum best practice is don't create sprints into the future. Reality is quite often it helps, right? If you want to know sort of pre-book sprints with a bit of a sense of what's going to happen in upcoming sprints. A lot of people do this to create their future sprints and load up some work in there so they can get a bit of a sense of it. Where it becomes problematic is if you fully book sprints and then you move something into the top sprint and you've got to cascade stuff down into future sprints, and that becomes a bit clunky. But you've got that flexibility there. Beneath that is the backlog. I haven't got a whole lot in this one. If I go to growth and development. Now, we're looking at a Kanban board view here. Just one thing I want to say, Kanban by default doesn't have a backlog, but you can enable it within Jira. So I've got a backlog view here, and my backlog's got a few more issues. And in Cloud now, you can see if you've got a ton, to avoid it becoming unwieldy, then there's a link here, show all issues. So I can click that and that should change the view. Okay, so I've got a lot more things in there now. I'll talk about these other panels in a second as well. So I'll just close them for a second. The other things to talk about now. Okay, Nikhil, how to enable the backlog view in Kanban? Okay, we've got 20 minutes left. I'll just do this really quickly. If I go to Meetups and I go to my Kanban view. Now, board administration, I'll cover in depth in the project administrator series, but I'll just give you a quick look now. So the three buttons on the top right-hand corner, there's board settings, so click on that. Under columns, on the left-hand side here. And again, in the project administrator series, I'll go through board configuration in depth. But under here, you can configure your columns, and see this column on the left here, Kanban backlog. And it's got a note here. With the Kanban backlog, you can plan your team's work in dedicated space away from the board and drag a status here to enable. So if I wanted to have everything that's in a status of to do showing as my backlog, then I could click and drag that across here. And you get a note here under to do. This column won't show on the board without a status. Okay. So I don't have any statuses on to do. So therefore that won't appear. Under Kanban, now everything that's on to do will appear there. And just one other thing to note here is an epics panel. So we'll show, we'll talk about epics in a minute. We'll just enable that for now. And now if I go back to the board, I should get, if I refresh my screen, another option here. So now I've got the backlog option showing there. Okay. Nikhil, does that answer your question?
Yes, Paul. Cool. Thank you very much.
Cool. No worries. And because I'm recording this, you can play that back later if you want to, pause it and do it. So,
sure,
cool.
Thank you.
No stress. Okay, so reports, they're not really part of board, but they're part of the board view. So there's reports there. We'll go through those in a future session. Releases, I've got 20 minutes left. Just looking at my post-its up here. So I've got things that I wanted to go through still. Components, releases and versions, this one. Talk quickly about epics, and optionally, we can talk about labels. Okay, so I'll keep going here. I'll jump into components for a second. Okay, so on the left here, we've got links to releases, issues, where you can search for issues, pages, where you can link to Confluence, components, and components, I'm going to talk about those now. Components are a data construct, which is a long-lived theme, I guess. So you can use components for whatever works for you, okay? You could have a component that is let's create one here now. You could say, we might have a component which is our content management system, okay? Let's pretend we're using Adobe Experience Manager as our CMS, right? So that could be a component. You could have a component in a marketing department, for example, of campaign or campaign preparation. For example, you might run multiple campaigns, and you might want to say, I want to really want to know, some point in the future, I want to be able to query what were all the work items that were associated with my campaign preparation. Okay. You could have another component which is audit requirement, for example. Okay, so components can be business related, they can be technology related, It could be architecture related for your system. Like you could have another component which is database design. But of course, in Agile, we don't really do that anymore. And so you can set up your components for however you want. Components, I prefer these over labels, because labels, you can still query by them and everything, but labels are a bit more free format, and people tend to either miscapitalize something. So you might have one label, database, for example. If that was a label and you did that in lowercase, and you had another label that was database with an uppercase D, they're considered two different labels. And so labels are a lot easier to miss or to get wrong in queries, filters, dashboards, that sort of stuff. Whereas components have a little bit more control and rigor to them. And inbuilt, you can click on the link here if you wanted to see everything that's related to a database design and that will run a query. You can also set a component lead, and you can set a default assignee. So you can't do those things with a label. And it could be that for database design component, for example, you might want to automatically assign those ones to your architect. It could be that for campaign preparation, you want to assign those automatically to your marketing lead and that sort of stuff. So components are pretty cool that way. Okay, 15 minutes left. Releases. Oh, any questions about components before I move on? And any of the stuff that we're talking about in these sessions, if you join the Slack group, then you can post questions in there too afterwards and all that, and I can share PowerPoint decks with you and different things. I found with Meetup, in the messages that I can send out in Meetups, I can't attach files. I can put links in and that sort of stuff, but I can't share the slide decks in there. Okay, so releases, these are a bit confusing in Jira because they're referred to in some places as releases and in other places as versions. So we say releases up here and we say versions down here. They're one and the same. A bit like components, you can use releases for whatever works for you. Some people are really quite concerned about using releases or versions for other means or other purposes other than software development and tying in with CI/CD, that sort of thing. But really, you can use them for whatever you like. The other thing to say with components and releases is that you can assign multiple to any issue type. So if I go into my, let's just create a version here, and let's say we're going to create a version called Meetups first month. And optionally, we can set a start date. So I might say, well, Meetup started a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to finish on the 31st of July. And this is a version, aka release for Meetups management. Okay. And then we have that the release view or version view. Now, versions or releases have more attributes to them than what components do. Release also help you in reporting. Sandeep, yeah, absolutely. Yep, very much so. So for people who come from more of a traditional project management background where you've got a start date, end date, and you want to assign scope to something that is date bound, releases are a really good fit for that. And you can associate releases, like I was saying, with, I'll demonstrate in a minute. You can have multiple releases associated with issues. And if I create another version here, let's just say, so I've got Meetups first month, which is around scheduling some meetups, and I might want to have another one here, which is around slide preparation. And I'm not going to worry about setting any dates on that one. Okay. Back in our project, I'll jump back into my board. Okay, so I'm just looking back at my Kanban board here. Manny had created a story here. I'm just going to open Manny's story. This is from one of the previous kickoff sessions. Just for those who haven't been to the kickoffs as well, this Jira project, there's a user ID that all of you can use. Okay, so it's a shared user ID, meetup.user at integrityworks.com.au. with a shared password. And so you can log in here as a user, and you can create stories, you can move stuff in the backlog and all that sort of thing to try it out. One of the key premises with learning is concrete practice. So I wanted to make sure that you all had an opportunity to practice in here. And if you want to set up your own free Jira instance, let me know and I can give you a hand to do that as well. So a comment from Anthony. Some of the CI/CD plugins use releases as a key field. Yep, for control, which is why software teams prefer not to use versions for other things. Absolutely, really good point. So if you are using versions for multiple things, it's probably really important to name your releases in a way that clearly distinguishes its purpose. So if you're going to use a release for managing software versioning, then you want to prefix it or name it in a way that mirrors that. If it's for business stuff, then you probably want to prefix it with, business or something like that that helps to define what it's for. Often teams who are, if you've got DevOps in your team and they are managing releases themselves, they'll have dashboards and filters and things set up to look for particular fixed versions. If you've got a release team that does enterprise release management like they did at MeBank, then you may have people who've got queries, reports, dashboards and things that are looking for specific release versions. So if you create business release versions as well, then they'll be excluded from their filter. So, but that's something really good call out. It's good to control that. Okay, so I just wanted to quickly demonstrate, I've got 10 minutes left here. So for fixed versions, we can assign multiple. Okay. For components, we can also assign multiple if you want to. All right. So now if I go back to my component view, I'm just going to jump into components. So now under components, we can see that we've got one issue is linked to CMS AEM, and there's one that's for campaign preparation. And if we go into releases and we go to slide preparation, just the other attributes that we've got here. So there's the status of the release, progress, which will show how many issues are done out of it, start date, release date, description, etc. And we can, how do you differentiate between a fixed version and fixed version, Sandeep? Yep, good question. So let me go back to this one. So I've got fixed version in here and I haven't got fixed version. This screen configuration, we'll go through that under the project administration scheme, stream. But I'll need to add a fixed version as a field into this screen, the Scrum default issue screen. So we can do that as either part of project administration or the project administration or system administration. So your question though, how do you differentiate between a fixed version and fixed version? So a fixed version, and again, this sort of harks back from the origin of Jira. A fixed version would be if you raise a bug or you've got some piece of work that has an impact on or is linked to a particular version. So you might have version 4.5 of your software in production currently, and you found a bug for it. And so your effects version might be set to version 4.5 and your fixed version might be set to 4.6 or 4.7. So Anthony, good call. Effects version is a relationship marker, helping you deal with the law of unintended consequences. Fixed version is actually an X release. Yep, good call. Okay. Okay, so under release, so we've got some more information in here under releases. This is a different view to components. So you can generate release notes if you want to, and you can see issues in the version. This is a summary of everything regardless of the status. So we've got one here. You can see its priority, its issue type is a story, its identifier or key, it's 23, the summary, its current assignee, and its current status. Then you've got same sort of layout, but by status. So we've currently got no issues that are done, got no issues that are in progress, and one issue that is yet to do. Anywhere in these screens that you see a link, you can click on it and it will either take you to the record itself or the issue, so Meet 23, or where it says View in Issue Navigator, or if there's a count. So if you've got 10 issues or something like that showing somewhere, you can click on that and that will run a query in Jira as well. Okay. Release notes are just in HTML. So you can either copy and paste the HTML somewhere, or if you want to release it as in a Word document and export as a PDF or something, then you can copy and paste that in as well. Okay, and you can configure release notes. I haven't done that, but that's something that we can play with in future meetups as well. Okay. All right, so that's releases and versions and components. Any questions now? Anthony, release notes get auto-compiled from the stories that are attached to releases. Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so those release notes, you can see here we've got Meet 23. And the one that we've got showing here is just Meet 23, no others that are in there. Okay. Just very quickly on components, let me go back to our board. Just going to go to the backlog. Components, there's no drag and drop way to set a component. So that's one of the drawbacks of components. You would need to click on it, scroll down and find component. These fields in here can be configured. So components could appear up here with all the other fields, but we can go through that in one of the future sessions. So you click on it and set the component that way. In one of the future sessions, I'll show you how to add fields. So you can have more detail showing, you can have up to 3 fields that appear underneath the summary here. So you could have component, status, current assignee, due date, different things like that appearing. So I'll show that in one of the future ones. Now, the other thing that I want to show was these 2 panels on the left. I'm going to hide our left pane. So we've got 4 minutes left. So we've got a versions panel and we've got an epics panel. We haven't talked about epics yet, we've sort of run out of time, but the construct is similar. For versions, you can expand it out. We'll show you a description, start date, release date, the number of issues that are in that version, and the number of issues that have been completed. And there's like a progress bar chart thing down here, which is just based on the number that are done or completed. Epics have a similar kind of construct. There's a link to the epic itself, number of issues, number of completed issues. You can create an issue in the epic, etc. And you can see a progress bar down the bottom here as well. Run out of time to go through epics in detail, but for both epics and versions, you can drag and drop. So if you want to set a version on anything in your backlog, you can do it that way. The only thing with drag and drop with versions is that it will only associate with one. So if I drag and drop onto slide preparation instead of meetups the first month, it's replaced that version. So if you wanted to have multiple set, then you would do that from over on the side here. And then it will update here to say 2 versions. You hover over and it will show them. The other bit, just very quickly before we finish up, is that you can filter. So if I click on this version, it will filter down to just those items that are associated with it. And if I drag that across there, adding the selected issue to version slide preparation will remove the issue from any other versions. Okay. And then it drops out of that filter. So if I want to show everything, then it will drag, you just click on that top item there. And the other thing is that you can remove versions. So if I drag that over on the left-hand side, drop it, yep, and now it'll remove the versions, then it drops off there. Okay, so we've got 2 minutes left. I'll probably leave it there for today. Has anybody got any questions or anything that they want to discuss before we wrap up for the day? And I'll continue on with the other parts that I didn't get to in the next session. But any thoughts, complaints, anything else? Oh, exercise for practicing. Yeah, Sandeep, absolutely. So if you log in, here's the URL. Thanks, John. So it's meetup.user@integrityworks.com.au. That's the user ID that you'll need to put in. And the password was getting started, one with an exclamation mark on the end. If it gets locked out, just let me know and I'll just reset the password and let everybody know. If you want to be added into the Slack channel so that we can discuss things in between sessions, then yeah, please let me know and I'll just give you your email address and I'll add you into, it's a locked Slack channel. We can talk to people and ask questions or follow up on anything from the meetup. But other than that, thank you very much for your time today, everybody. I really enjoy these sessions. I love the input, Anthony and others. Thank you very much for you and Sandeep for your contribution. And if anybody's got something that they would like to present in a future session as well, that'd be awesome as well. So thanks heaps. We'll leave it there. I'm going to copy the chat and I'll send a note out very soon when the recording's up if you want to access it. Otherwise, thanks heaps and we'll see you at the next one. All right.
Thank you, Paul.
Bye. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, John.
Paul, if you have
Yeah.
got 2 minutes, I had a small question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if you do not have any other meetings or if you have got 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I've got a meeting at 1:30, but
Yeah,
no.
I had a small question. If you go to if you go to that active Scrum board,
Mhm.
active sprints, like if you go
Yeah.
back.
Okay, so I'm sharing. Okay, so on our just open up this left panel.
Yeah, so if you switch to Meetup Scrum and go to active sprints.
Yep.
So I just wanted to know, so if you, at the top, on the right hand side, you see connections, 6 issues, and if you collapse that, you will see different things. So
Yep.
so basically, how that is being created? Like, is it possible for you to tell it quickly right now, or
Yeah, absolutely.
and if you can
okay, so under board settings here.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's swim lanes.
Okay.
And for your swim lanes, you can configure them based on epics, which is what I've got them set at the moment. You can write queries. So I've configured this for people before where they wanted to have swim lanes based on due date, for example. So you might say where the due date is less than 7 days. Next swim lane might be due 7 to 14 days. And then greater than 14 days might be the third swim lane or something. So you can do it by queries. And that's really, really powerful. You can do it by stories. Okay, so if you have subtasks under your story, then you would have your story appearing as a swim lane, and then all the subtasks under it would be dragging across.
Okay.
And showing under there. You can do it by assignee as well. This works really well if you've got remote teams, and if you wanted to do a stand-up and rotate through people rather than focus on the work. Yep. Epics we looked at. Projects, if you are rolling up boards, right? So, earlier I said I had a program board and I was pulling data from several different projects.
Okay.
You can do your swim lanes by project. So then you can do your stand-up product by product, for example.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
Yeah,
that's
that's
pretty
great.
handy.
That's powerful. Yeah.
Or there's none is the other option as well if you don't want any swim lanes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, basically it's going to show the swim lanes, what do you say, based on what we configure in these settings.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I change that to assignees, for example, and it's really quick and easy to do, right? And then I go back to my board, then everything that I've got is unassigned, okay?
Okay.
But if I click on one and I assign it to me, and refresh, I don't have to refresh the screen.
Great,
okay?
Yeah.
And then if I go this one, I want to assign that to Meetup user. All right, then you got those different swim lanes come up. If I go back into my board settings and let's go, okay, version, I can't remember what the fixed versions were. Fixed version equals, what were the fixed versions that I had? Just refresh this for a second. Okay, so I had slide preparation was, it's going to copy the text. Okay, equals, slide, oops, got to spell properly, slide preparation.
Yeah.
Okay, so it'll auto-complete there. And I'll change this one to slide prep. So I'll add that filter. And then the other one that I had was meetups the first month. Okay, meetups. Okay, fixed version equals meetups. And I add that. Then when I go back to the board, active sprint. Why didn't it work? I'll do both swim lanes and queries. Oh, okay. So I don't have anything in the current sprint. Okay, which is associated with the fixed versions. So if I go to the backlog and open this up, and okay, so let's do some. So just Control Shift, select Shifts. Okay, so I'll put those ones in there, and these ones. I'm going to put in the slide preparation. Now, if I go back into active sprints, then I've got meetups, slide prep, and everything else that doesn't have a fixed version. Yeah. So yeah, it's really powerful.
Yeah, that it's very powerful. But I suppose for these things to be configured, you need to be a site administrator, right? You can't do
To
as a
do that
daily
one,
user.
just project admin.
Okay,
So
project
yeah,
admin.
yep. So if you're a project administrator, then you can configure the board.
As per
And
your
so
project,
yeah, so this one Tuesday next week. So a week from now, I'll go through all the board configuration if you want to go to that one. Yeah, yeah. All right. And in the meantime, ask me any question. So if you
yeah, sure. Basically, I was just going to practice by creating some user stories or few things in the Jira, because I've been using Jira for almost 1 year, but as a daily user, these the company didn't give us admin rights or something like that.
That's
And
right.
I was very much keen to explore it, but they said it's against the policies, and thankfully you came up with this session, so I was very happy to come and join.
It is pretty hard in a lot of companies when it's locked down. You're like, I just want to create a custom field.
Yeah, and
they won't let you in.
Exactly, and every time I had to run to the administrator to change this and that. Was
that's right.
painful.
And sometimes if you don't have that admin access, or if you haven't seen it, then it's quite difficult to know what you can ask for as well.
Exactly, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Whereas when you see the custom fields and stuff, you go, I could use that.
Exactly, that's true. When we got a new actual Scrum Master, then he started adding on a lot of fields on the right, like the fixed version, the setup, the end date or target date. Lot many things, and I was wow, so how did we get this to? So he said that you need to have admin rights, and then you can configure all these fields. I said wonderful. So yeah, by the time I was out of the project, so that is fine.
Yeah, no worries. So if you want to set up your own free version as well, where you can be system administrator, I can give you help to do that too. So it costs nothing.
Definitely. After today's session, it was quite helpful. I will explore it and see what I can come up with questions for you. Or any help from you. So the next session we have next Tuesday or next Tuesday?
So there's 2 days from now. So you're in Melbourne, did you say, Nikhil?
Yeah, I'm in Melbourne.
Yeah. So same time, midday, and Jaya, for you, it'll be the same time in the evening. I think it's Monday night where you are at the moment, Jaya. So it'll be Wednesday night your time, and midday Thursday Melbourne time. So the next one will go through power user stuff.
Yeah,
So it will
I
be
see that. Yeah.
queries and filters. Sorry, queries and filters are the same thing, but dashboards, sharing filters, that sort of stuff. And then the one that's a week from now will go through project administration. So the stuff that we've just shown here for swim lanes, card colors. This is an awesome thing too. You can change the color of a card based on a query. So if you wanted to highlight in green your stories that were sprint ready, for example. So okay, we've got there's a description there, there's an estimate, etc., etc. You can put a color on it. You can color that green, and where it's missing that stuff, you can color it red. So it makes it really easy in the backlog to go, okay, we've got these issues here.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
Like, yeah, powerful. Something.
And layout and different stuff. So, you know, like I was saying, you can add in the backlog if you want to see, you know, assignee or custom fields even. So the country where our Meetup members have come from. Right? If you want to see that in the backlog, then that can appear there and all that sort of stuff. So it's awesome. It's Jira can either be really basic or it's very, very powerful as well. There's lots you can do with it. So.
Okay, yeah. So I don't want to take much of your time. So the quick question,
okay.
in the very first session, you had come up with a very detailed list of people who had registered for this meetup, like from the country, from different areas. Like, so did you use any of this things like in your?
Agile coaching, no, not that one. What was it? Meetup members. So I created a dashboard. And this one, just because it's got people's data behind it, I haven't shared this with that user, the Meetup user. But to get all this data in here, all that is a filter. So if I go here, so it's just a filter, and this is in the Integrity Works project instead of in the Meetup project. So it's pulling data from a different project. But all it is a filter, right? So I've got project equals IW, issue type equals Meetup member. So that's another issue type that I created. So you could have task, story, Meetup member, and order by the key. So that's all the data that's in there, all the content of that query. And so at that point I had 178 people in Meetup. And so that filter, Meetup members, is what's being shown here. So I got representing by country. So it's just one data attribute and a heat map. So it's using this same filter, but configured to use a different attribute. So at the moment, it's the statistic type is country, but it could also be status, priority, etc., right? So I got by country there, by business domain. So country and business domain are custom fields that I created. Then there's role, which is another custom field. And then this one here, country. So it's a different gadget, same data, same attribute, just presented a different way. And then again, same filter using the business domain attribute, different gadget. So the dashboards are really powerful.
Exactly, yeah. So with one query, you got like so much of data.
Yeah. So once you've captured data in Jira and you've got custom fields and all that sort of stuff set up, the data is great. There's so much you can do with it and so much you can learn from it. It's really cool.
Yeah, true. Yeah, probably this reminds me of creating one of the user stories that you said in the first meetup, that even though any of the user mess up with the active sprints or the backlog, you said you can roll it back, something like that. I remember you saying that. Yeah. And I was like really amazed. Wow. So if that is a feature that is really cool, like I would like to learn. So I will create a user story so that in future sessions we can go through it. Like
absolutely.
I would really like to know that.
That'd be really good. And for yourself, Jaya, and everybody else, any question that you have, I'm sure there are other people who are asking, and that gives me good content for future sessions as well, right? So I really appreciate your questions. And playing around with the system and any feedback about this didn't work or this was a surprise or whatever, that's good feedback for me too. It really helps.
Definitely. Sure.
Good stuff.
Yeah, thanks Paul for this.
No worries. All right, great talking to you.
Same here. Right. Thank you.
Thanks,
Take care.
Okay,
Bye.
Bye, Jaya. See ya.